Which NFL win totals should you bet? Welcome, football fans, to another BLV NFL reaction video. In this video, we're going to react to Colin Cowherd's favorite win totals for 2025. His favorite over-under futures for this NFL season. You've heard from me, my perspective, my favorite bets, but let's hear from a different perspective. Gronk, spike the like button. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't be a jabroni. Do it. And comment below your favorite win totals for 2025 and whether or not you agree with Uncle Colin. Let's get to it. Let's react to some Colin Cowherd magic. Let's see what he's got for us today. Okay.
Okay, so we're going to go to the NFL, winter meetings here pretty quick. But the over and unders are now, with all the betting companies, are coming out. Vegas over unders. So these numbers are, how many games do you think a team can win? And as you know, they always
pretty simple.
Come in half, 7.5, 8.5, and you, as a consumer, bet the under or bet the over. Now, most fans bet the over. They're optimistic. I tend to find unders, but I found 3 unders and 3 overs that are interesting. So let's go to
3 overs and 3 unders. So his favorite overs and his favorite unders. Let's see what he's got.
The conferences first. The one that jumps out to me, let's start in the AFC. For our radio audience, Bills 11.5, Dolphins 8.5, Jets 5.5. The Patriots at 7.5 to me feels like an over.
Let's go! It's my New England Patriots. Yes, I agree with this. Before he gets to why, I agree. Patriots upgraded their roster probably more than anyone in football this offseason. Stephon Diggs at wide receiver to give them a reliable wide receiver for Drake May in year 2. Morgan Moses at right tackle, going under the radar for that pickup, for experience and ability and stability on the offensive line. They also replaced Dave Andrews with Bradbury at center. But the bigger moves, Milton Williams on the defensive front, Carlton Davis in the secondary to combine with Christian Gonzalez, Robert Spillane, Harold Landry. They made some really beautiful moves. And the biggest of them all, Mike Vrabel and this new coaching staff. Josh McDaniels returns to New England over Gerard Mayo, probably the worst coach in football last year. Huge upgrade.
Massive upgrade on coaching staff. Also, they were 3-6 in one-score games with a rookie quarterback. So there's going to be an ascension. They're going to be a better one-score game team. They spent almost $200 million in free agency.
That is one of the big question marks about Drake May and the Patriots moving forward, is their ability to be clutch. Because, yeah, May had that moment against the Titans that went viral, but we haven't really seen him in a lot of close games. So that's going to be something in 2025 that could make or break their season. Whether or not they just miss or just make the playoffs, it could come down to a couple of final 2-minute situations where Drake May has the football. So that's really going to prove if he has a breakout season, if he's the guy, if he's the man or not. So that's an interesting point for sure.
I would bet the over on the Patriots. Let's go.
Okay, next up. AFC North, it appears that he doesn't have a bet, but let's hear what he has to say.
To the Ravens, Bengals, Steelers, Browns. Nothing jumps out to me. Ravens 11.5, Bengals 9.5, Steelers 8.5, Browns 5.5. Nothing seems underwhelming or overwhelming.
I agree.
The next division, projected win totals, AFC South. This is one of my favorite overs. So the
over Tennessee Titans. I think I had them as an under in my bets video. So this is going to be an argument here. So let's hear what he has to say, and then I'll debate him on his points about the Titans. He could be right. If he's right about Cam Ward, or if this team basically strikes gold with their rookie quarterback, he's going to be right. I mean, that's the way it's going to go, which is why the Titans are a little bit risky to bet against. But I will debate why he might be wrong.
Texans at 9.5, Colts, Jags 7.5 wins, the Titans at 5.5. Bet the over. Brian Callahan, listen, he was so frustrated. Will Levis arguably gave 3 wins away. last year. So Cam Ward, there's just not going to be, nobody's going to quite know what to do until he has an off season. Remember C.J. Stroud came in, and it kind of feels like everybody's kind of waiting for C.J. Stroud to fall apart, and he didn't. So I think Cam Ward, the upgrade, Cam Ward to Will Levis, is going to get you to 7 or 8 or 9 wins in this division. Just a very weak AFC South.
Okay, that's interesting. So his only real point was that the quarterback upgrade. And he kind of argued that Callahan might be a better coach than we think. I would make the opposite argument. I would say that Callahan is probably the worst coach in the league, or one of them. He's in the bottom 3. I've never been in love with his scheme, ever. I mean, I thought Cincinnati was a lot more about Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, than it was about his scheme. Okay, so that's first and foremost. Second of all, I feel like they don't have a great receiving core, so it's going to be hard to elevate Cam Ward with talent around him. His best receiver is Calvin Ridley. His number 2 right now is Van Jefferson or Treylon Burks. His running game, average at best. So Cam Ward is going to have to be special. Will Levis, as bad as he is from a turnover perspective, I don't think he's as bad as people say. I mean, he's bad, but he's not that bad. I mean, this is a rookie quarterback coming into the worst team in football with a lackluster receiving core, an average running game, and an average at best offensive line with a defense that has no real pass rush. Their secondary is the defense was good last year on paper, but they did not, really last the entire season. So I look at Tennessee and I'm like, somebody has to be bad next year. Now, maybe it could be the Colts in this division where the Colts just simply from quarterback play alone. But I like Shane Steichen. I think what he's been able to do with lackluster quarterbacks is proven. I think what Callahan has been able to prove is really nothing with lackluster quarterbacks. Maybe you could give him credit for some Jake Browning, but I mean, I think that Zach Taylor deserves some of that love too. So, I mean, 5.5, I mean, they would have to win 6 or 7 games with a rookie quarterback. That's not easy to do, even in this division. So I personally, maybe if you don't really love the under, I would just stay away. I think the bet in this division is the Texans. I've argued they have the best defense on paper entering 2025 right now. Their pass rush is deadly. They have one of the best corner duos in football. Their linebacker, deep and fast and physical. They upgraded safety. Their offensive line can't be worse. They've got great skill positions. Christian Kirk, added to Nico Collins, Joe Mixon, Dalton Schultz, CJ Stroud, no more sophomore slump. I'd go over Texans. I'd stay away from these other numbers with Jags and Colts.
Wins in this division. Just a very weak AFC South. Chiefs, Broncos, Chargers, Raiders. I think Kansas City under 11.5 is one of my favorite bets. Broncos 9.5, Chargers 9.5.
I could see the Chiefs landing at 11 or 10, but let's see what he has to say here. I did not put this as a bet regardless.
Raiders 6.5. I'd probably go over Chargers, but the under on Kansas.
He loves the Chargers.
City. Remember, they were 11-0 in one-score games.
11-0 in one-score games is ludicrous. But aren't they going to be able to blow out more teams next year, you would think? Maybe, possibly.
Like recovering fumbles, regression is coming. Yeah. Even if they go 8-3, nobody goes 11-0 in one-score games. Also, they're still trying to figure out their offensive line. Joe Tooney left, their best offensive lineman. And they don't, they're using somebody's backup at left tackle. They're an injury away in the O-line from being a complete mess. They're also getting older in key spots.
Mm-hmm. Okay. That's a good argument. Good notes. I will say that the offensive line, I mean, it was pretty bad last year. Like, you could make an argument that it could get better if they get better left tackle play, right? Like Joe Tooney, yes, that's a loss, but let's say they got better at left tackle and a little bit worse at left guard. I think it's manageable, right? I think their receiver position will be more explosive. Rashee Rice returns. Don't forget about that. They got Xavier Worthy, who enters year 2 and stayed out of trouble, I think. Kelsey's still there, and you got Marquise Hollywood-Brown for an entire season. Pacheco will be healthier. You added Elijah Mitchell. So there's more weapons on offense for Patrick Mahomes, even if the O-line is slightly worse or about the same. Defensively, You could see some regression from their front seven if Chris Jones does fall off a little bit because he is getting a little bit older and their defensive front is a little thin. But their secondary, they're still pretty strong. They did lose Justin Reed. Their linebackers are the same. So I look at Kansas City and I'm like, I can understand if you think they're going to win 10 or 11, even with a Super Bowl hangover, but I'm not willing to fade them. Like they've just proven it with Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, this core, Chris Jones, Steve Spagnuolo. It's the best coach team on a weekly basis from a consistency standpoint. It's the current most dominant, most consistent NFL franchise. I just can't fade them. I can't put money on them to lose games. I can't, especially with the refs in their pockets. So even if they regress, like let's say their regression could truly be they don't make the AFC Championship. Maybe we're overthinking this, right? Maybe they go like 11-6. That could happen, right? But I don't know. Like, would I bet money on it? I wouldn't personally.
From being a complete mess, they're also getting older in key spots. Now we go to the NFC. I have an over and an under bet in the same division.
Okay, so Commanders only being at 9.5. I want to say they were at 10.5 when I looked, but I could be wrong about that. This could be a different platform that's posting these numbers. Cowboys at 7.5. I do agree with both of those. I'd say I think the Commanders are risky though, especially at 10.5. I don't know about 9.5. 9.5 feels decent. I would probably stay away from the Eagles personally, and I do kind of like the Giants over a little bit. But I broke down all my favorite bets in a previous video, guys. I definitely had the Cowboys under, but I think the Cowboys were at 8.5 on mine. So maybe these numbers already moved in our favor a little bit because I think I had the Commanders leaning towards under 10.5. But at 9.5, that's kind of where that number is a little sneaky. So let's hear what he has to say here.
So Eagles 11.5, that's about right.
Yeah.
I'm going to take the over on the Commanders and the under on the Cowboys. So listen, Jaden Daniels is the real deal. I just talked to somebody, a friend, who was at an event Jaden Daniels was at in the last couple of weeks. The kid's unbelievable.
I will say we were speaking the same way about C.J. Stroud last year, and C.J. Stroud did have a sophomore slump, so it is possible.
They spent money, the coaching, 9.5. I mean, they're going to go 2-0 against the Cowboys and 2-0 against the Giants.
I don't know about that. Maybe. They lost the Cowboys last year with Cooper Rush, right?
So I think the Commanders is, 10-7 with the Lamar Jackson of the NFC at quarterback. Shock anybody?
Now, the Commanders did spend money, but they spent money on Laramie Tunsil, who I think is their biggest upgrade at left tackle. But he was the most penalized left tackle in football last year. He is a really good pass blocker, but somewhat inconsistent. Deebo Samuel is extremely overrated at this point. I do think he fits their offense. I do think he'll help them. But I don't think he's the guy that people are thinking he is. Okay, I think the Niners might actually have improved once they traded him. That speaks volumes, in my opinion. And there's a lot to be said about the Commanders' luck last year. Luck in the playoffs, right? Luck with the finishes of some games. Hail Mary, right? Also, you're talking about Jaden Daniels having to replicate last year and kind of carry that offense and carry that team. And while you do believe that's very possible, I think you still need to see some consistency there. I would lean into not denying or not discounting the Commanders due to that. But there's a little bit of that Tennessee Titans effect, like you said. Like, what if Daniels took the NFL by storm and surprised people? What if Cliff Kingsbury's approach to offense coming back to the NFL surprised some people? What if Dan Quinn, not really from his defense because the defense wasn't very good. And you look at the defense, they didn't really improve it. Jonathan Jones maybe helps their corner position, but safety, you could argue, got a little bit worse. They lost Jeremy Chin. Linebackers the same. Their pass rush is probably worse. They lost Jonathan Allen and Dante Fowler despite some of their additions that they did make for depth purposes, but they didn't really add some stud. I know that the draft is still coming, but I don't think they got a lot better. And honestly, last year, they were a pretty fortunate team. So on paper, to me, the Commanders are more of a classic under team. But at 9.5, I think I was looking at 10.5. 9.5, I would probably stay away because I think they should win 10, 11 games, right? But 10.5 is where I start to question whether or not they'll get to 11 or 12. Because last year it felt like they were fortunate to get to where they got last year. The Cowboys, let's see what he has to say. I think I will agree with this take.
Also, the Cowboys, I would bet the under. I don't think anybody's quite embracing. Brian Schottenheimer, to me, had struggled to remain at the same place as a coordinator. I think they went cheap. They also got to pay Micah. Again, this is a team that's a CeeDee Lamb sprained ankle from, being fairly weaponless. I would take the under.
That's true. Okay, not a lot of things to say about that for Colin there, but yeah, the Colin CD take is accurate. They need receivers. They need playmakers. Now, they do have the draft, and they have the 12th overall pick. They could add a receiver, maybe the second or third best player at that position at that pick. They could add Ashton Genty or, their choice of running back there. That would really help the offense. The O-line, to me, is the overlooked aspect of this argument. Zach Martin's gone. The O-line is, on paper, the thinnest and the worst it's been in years for Dak Prescott. And yeah, the lack of weapons is pretty alarming. They need a running back really badly. Defensively, I'm really concerned with the lack of run defenders. Like, they lost to Marcus Lawrence, and they didn't really, they brought in Dante Fowler. I like that for their pass rush, but all the moves they made does not help their run defense, which has been one of the critical areas of their defense. Their linebackers are still Their defensive line is thinner than usual. There's not a lot, their nickel corner, Jordan Lewis, gone, so they have to replace him. I don't think they really got better anywhere. That's one thing that really screams at me. It's where did they get better? They just added a bunch of busts from other teams, like Solomon Thomas and Kyer Elam and Kenneth Murray. It's I don't know, man. I don't know what they're doing. They do have a draft, but 7.5 also, I'm pretty sure it was at 8.5 for me. So these numbers seem off.
Now we go. Nothing jumps out to me at the NFC North. Lions 10.5.
Vikings over does kind of feel too low at 8.5. Packers, I would maybe lean under.
Packers 9.5. Bears 8.5. Vikings 8.5. Nothing jumps out to me. Everybody wants to bet the Bears in the over. Be careful. Nothing really jumps out to me.
Nothing stands out, I guess, for him. Saints, Panthers, Falcons, Bucks. Okay.
The NFC South, Bucks should win, best roster. Falcons maybe a little underserved, but
I think they're a little overrated.
Refuse to bet the Falcons on anything. I've lost a fortune over the years. Panthers, Saints, both 6.5 wins.
I would probably lean Saints under and lean Panthers over slightly.
Now, there are two surprises to me in the NFC West.
Okay.
I would take the under on the Niners 10.
That's fair, but I'll explain why I think that's a bad bet. And then the Rams at 9.5, I also agree with. I think they'll go over. I'm going to make a video about the Cardinals because I think they're sneaking up on people. I think the Cardinals are a little sneaky right now. The Niners, we'll see what he has to say. I'm pretty sure I know what he's going to say, but I disagree. And the Rams, 9.5. The Niners number just seems wildly high. I'm not sure why it's so high. I know why I wouldn't bet the under, though.
10.5. They are getting old in key spots. You got Christian McCaffrey coming off an injury, and then Brandon Ayuk coming off an injury. They have 12 draft picks. That is a lot of young players. Rookies don't flourish generally, except key positions in the NFL.
Well, you liked the Rams last year. There's a reason you like the Rams. They're young, right? Isn't that what the Niners are trying to do right now? Just saying.
Also, they lost Greenlaw and Hufanga.
Greenlaw and Hufanga, they lost. That doesn't help them. But they didn't really play last year either. So it doesn't necessarily hurt them.
Wanted to keep both. Those are leaders, great instinctive players. So we haven't loved their defense for the last couple of years. And when Bosa gets hurt, it's a bad defense. So, and he's getting older. I would bet the
Nick Bosa's 28, 27.
Under on the Niners at 10.5. I would bet the over on the Rams at 9.5. They need a corner. Outside of that, they are set. They're getting better. The defense got better Thanksgiving on.
The one thing I'd worry about with the Rams is Stafford and Puka Nacua and the health there. And I would worry about the back half of their defense in general. I think the front is pretty good. Linebackers are not good. But when it comes to the Niners, the reason I would not bet the under and I would save my money is because first, they have Kyle Shanahan. Okay. Second, they have a lot of really good players still. Christian McCaffrey, Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle, Trent Williams, Nick Bosa, Fred Warner, etc. Okay. Third, they have the easiest schedule in the NFL by a lot. If you look at who they play this year, they play basically no elite teams. They play maybe 2. Like, their schedule is one of the easiest schedules I've ever seen. So I would stay away from it from that facet because I think they'll have the better coach and the coaching staff in a majority of the games with Kyle and Saleh. Saleh really helps their defense, by the way, because coordinator's been a big problem for them recently. And you never know. They could draft well because they draft well last year. They're trying to go a little cheaper and replenish some youth with this roster, and they could really get good by the end of the year if those young players thrive, right? Look out for some names too, like Mustafa, Green in the secondary, those two players, Dominic Pooney on the offensive line from the draft last year, Ricky Pearsall from the draft last year. These guys could all have steps forward and be good players. Brock Purdy, he's better than most of the quarterbacks he's going to play on the schedule. So that's where I'd be concerned about the Niners from a betting perspective if I was going to bet under. 10.5 does feel high, though. Rams, 9.5. I would bet the over. Like I said, I have my concerns, but I feel like with Stafford and McVay, you've got a very high floor. I love what they did with Devontae Adams, and I think that Poona Ford helps one of their main defensive weaknesses with the run game. So, yeah, Seahawks at 7.5 does feel pretty low there. I thought they were at 8.5, and I'm surprised the Cardinals are above the Seahawks. That's also interesting.
So the Rams, I would take the over. So my over and under bets.
So his picks: Commanders over, Patriots over, Titans over. I agree with the Patriots for sure. Commanders, I'm on the fence. Titans, I kind of disagree. Chiefs, I'm just going to disagree out of principle, although I understand his argument, under 11.5. Niners, I would stay away from, although I understand. And the Cowboys, I agree. So Patriots and Cowboys are the ones that I would bet on here, personally.
I would take the Commanders over 9.5, the Patriots over 7.5, and the Titans over 5.5. My unders are the Chiefs under 11.5, the Niners under 10.5, the Cowboys under 7.5. I also think the Rams can hit the over. I think
oh yeah, the Rams are not on here. Did he do 7 by accident?
The Rams can hit the over. McVay, Stafford, Devontae Adams.
Somebody messed up the graphic.
They cannot be as physically immobile as they were last year when the offensive line fell apart. That's not going to happen again. They'll have more depth. They're going to draft a tackle early in this draft.
All right, guys, there it is. Colin Cowherd's picks for his overs, his unders, his favorite win total bets. Let me know yours in the comment section below. It's Mitch. Thank you for watching. Peace.